It takes almost a decade from appointment to actually becoming Senate parliamentarian. Explain very quickly. You were appointed in...
I was appointed in 1966.
And then became parliamentarian?
After 14 years.
Oh yes. My gosh. They thought med school was bad.
Wow. Yeah. So a 14-year apprenticeship.
Yes, but it takes a while to master the Senate rules and procedures, particularly as they have become more complicated over the years.
You were appointed by a Democratic
I was appointed when Senator Mansfield was the majority leader and Senator Dirksen was the minority leader.
But you took over when the Republicans were in charge.
When Senator Baker became majority leader in 1981, yes.
Okay. Well, let's get to the news of the day. Everybody's talking about this reconciliation method. I guess the first question to you is, Republicans say this is really illegitimate in this scenario because the Democrats want to use it as kind of an end run because they do not have the 60 votes anymore for health care. Has reconciliation been used in this way when they didn't have the full 60 votes before?
Reconciliation has been used a lot.
Yeah.
And I would never use the term illegitimate with regard to reconciliation. It was created in the 1974 Congressional Budget Act. It was used the following year for a big tax cut bill that Senator Russell Long was managing. And it has been used starting in 1980 for very large major bills. It is a way, of course, of getting around the problem of the Senate filibuster.
And sometimes used for non-budgetary items, correct?
It was used for non-budgetary items until the mid-'80s, when Senator Robert Byrd felt that it was really being abused and sponsored a rule which is now known as the Byrd Rule.
Okay.
And since that period, anything that is not purely budgetary has been available for getting rid of those provisions, and that has been followed since then.
We're not asking you to prejudge. I know you don't want to backseat drive this situation, but it does seem as if Democrats are not trying to put the entire health care bill through this process. They only want to do the quote-unquote fixes. Just looking at it, is it fair to say that most of these fixes can have more than a tangential tie to the budget?
Okay, that's of course going to be up to Alan Frumin, and I'm not trying to prejudge his opinions. But I heard Senator Conrad yesterday, and it is his view that some of these fixes are not available because of the Byrd Rule.
Yeah.
And what would be, I guess, can you give an example of something that happened where reconciliation was not allowed because of this Byrd Rule that someone tried, so we have a real-world example?
Well, one issue that I remember very well was in 1995 when they had a very large reconciliation bill. And there was a provision that was in that bill which provided that no federal funds could be used for abortions. It was my view that that violated the Byrd Rule, even though it did score. It would have saved the federal government money. But part of the Byrd Rule is that if something is in there, not for its budgetary effect, but for its policy effect, that invokes something called the incidental test, and it can be thrown out. That was thrown out. That is going to be the really tough calls that Alan Frumin is going to have to make, even for things that score.
And I was going to say, Alan Frumin, the parliamentarian, will really be the man of the hour if Democrats proceed this way, because isn't it the parliamentarian's decision whether or not something qualifies as a budget item or not? He's sort of judge and jury. Well, an executioner, perhaps, for the policy.
Ultimately, it's the Vice President of the United States. But I can tell you, I have
Wait a minute. Explain that.
Yeah, what is that?
Actually?
It is the decision of the Vice President whether or not to play a role here.
He can play President of the Senate.
Absolutely. And I have seen Vice Presidents play that role in other very important situations. Hubert Humphrey.
The Vice President could overrule the parliamentarian?
Oh, absolutely. The parliamentarian only can advise. It is the Vice President who rules. But I will say that not since Hubert Humphrey have I seen a Vice President try to play that kind of role in the Senate.
But not since Hubert Humphrey have we had a Vice President this familiar with Senate rules either, in Joe Biden.
That's why I brought this up. Yes. Humphrey had been the majority whip. He had been in the Senate since 1948.
He knew that.
He felt very comfortable playing an important role. And it's quite possible that Vice President Biden...